Alrighty, why don't we talk about the Cyber Shadow official soundtrack release kind of thing, because it's kind of got problems. Now, to put things in perspective, this is the guy who did a game rip for this thing sometime last year. Why? Well, you're dealing with a 24-year-old graduate dude guy and like a bunch of music theory stuff. I could theoretically score for movies and all this other stuff. I haven't done it yet or anything, but I know a thing or two about this kind of stuff. I've been consuming game rips for a million years. I like soundtrack releases and stuff and things, right? And I thought I would do a game rip for this thing because at the time the yacht club guys were like, "Hey, we ain't got no plans." So I'm like, "Well, I could probably make something for myself mostly, right?" Um, so I did one of these, and it happened where because I'm a semi-blind person anyway. It happened that I was doing this thing when I nearly lost my vision of all things with something really bad that went on that I'm not going to go into here. And I kept pushing through, trying to get this game rip done and stuff, and I had to stop, and then kind of came back to it and eventually finished it and all that. So, then it was fun. I've gotten comments and stuff and things, and then the official thing came out, so I figured, hey, I'm just gonna buy it and compare it and stuff, and it should be better than the thing I made, right? It's not. And we're gonna talk about that, and I'm going to take you on a journey through my own comparisons and stuff with my own versions of things versus what's wrong with the soundtrack, and then we'll kind of have a talk about it because I don't know how to feel about this. It's either Enrique put these together very lazily, which I don't want to believe, or somebody at Yacht Club did it for them and they just didn't care, or some kind of mix up because there's lots of hilarious mistakes all over the place too. So let's just get into things. I'm going to bring up just to show that I own this. How do we even go about doing this properly? Let's see here. Where is my own little thing? So here you can see I bought this. This isn't piracy or anything. I own the soundtrack. We're just going to compare the soundtrack and other things. Another thing with the game rip too. I obviously own the game. This isn't piracy or anything. I just ripped it from my own version of the thing. Like I didn't, Like, let's just go. Where is Cyber Shadow even? I've got way too many mods and stuff and things on it. There you are, right? So I own this. So it's not, it's not like I'm pirating anything. This was all done from legit. I bought this thing and played it for a little while. The game was a bit hard for me, but I like the soundtrack, right? So that was kind of the thing behind that. I didn't play much. I've had friends and that played it and stuff. So anyway, Steam can go away now. That would be no. Whoa. Okay, let's just destroy Steam for now before I end up clicking and showing things I'm not supposed to show. Okay. Right. So I brought up a list of what's wrong with the soundtrack in my mind because I was listening to it and comparing it to the one that I know and stuff and whatever. So we're gonna go through all this together. Excuse me for using a magnifier. That's what happens when you're semi-blind. So I've got a bunch of track-specific issues, and then there's the what's actually wrong with this and all that. I'm probably going to send this to Yacht Club because I would like somebody over there, or even Pentadrangle himself, to react to this and see what they have to say about things. But let's just kind of go to the title screen thing. So their version has like a weird loop cut kind of thing at the end. I'll try and find it for you. Which mine doesn't, and I don't know why it's that weird, because none of the other, a few other tracks have that, actually. So where is this? They've called it Start Screen. Okay, their names are a little bit different, but... You kind of heard that back there, right? I'm going to try and play it for you again.
Yeah, I heard that. It sounds like a really good track. I think it's 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 a really good track. I
Right, that's kind of a problem. There's a weird cut there that shouldn't be there when it's looping back around and forth. It should be more like how it is in my version. And yes, I do have a separate download thing of my own. It's just that we're on YouTube. I'm just using YouTube, so it'll make sense to everybody because everybody can access this. So we're just gonna go over to what I call its title theme because it's the same kind of thing. I'm trying to skip around to the ending bit here. Is this it? Okay, we're still going. Here. See how mine kind of sounds normal? There's nothing wrong with it, and then we're just fading, right? Which is even more weird, because even their own version is fine, it's just that it only does that at the looping point, so I'm going to try and find you the in-between bit. So it's fine there, yet not at the end. I know, like, my own rip has problems like that too with how I put it together, because I was literally losing my vision when, like, putting a lot of these together for my own version, and, like, I have my own problems like that, where, like, certain parts line up properly at one point and then not so much at the other or something, but that felt like a very weird cut that shouldn't be. That's one of those hilarious mistakes. Like, how did... Anyway. Moving on. So I don't say too many nasty things on here, because I'm probably going to say enough of that as it is already. Okay, what else did we do on here? Oh yeah, Geothermal Towers. Let's talk a bit about that, why don't we? So that's that theme that you all like from the regular game. Now, Yacht Club's version doesn't have an intro for it, it just kind of shows up. Mine does, and here it is. Right, and then we go to the main loop and all that. The version that they have in their own soundtrack goes a little more like this. So that intro bit isn't there. Now, I know what Enrique would probably say about this. Because even in that Discord event that I was there for, back when they were doing that last year, he said there is an intro loop that starts with an elevator thing on top, and I'm guessing they didn't want to put that intro there because that elevator thing would be there. But are you seriously telling me they couldn't pay him a chunk of extra money for him to go back and fix up his files and redo that intro without that elevator thing in there? Like, I got around it by fading a few seconds into it and trying to, like, make it so it's not really there. It's obviously still there, you can hear it, but it's not anywhere near as in your face as it is in game, right? Again, I found it weird that instead of them going back and just kind of redoing that bit somehow, that they just skipped it entirely. And we've got more missing tracks and all that kind of stuff, which I don't think are intentional either, because this thing is pretty complete otherwise. On the idea of missing tracks, Geothermal Towers V2, or whatever, Part 2, something like that, is nowhere to be found in their release. I can't compare that one because I'm the only one that has it for some reason, so here's kind of what that's supposed to sound like in its entirety, I guess. Right, and then we're just kind of looping, right, and fading and stuff, so we'll just go to where we're kind of doing that. Alright, so that track isn't in their release for some reason. Instead, what I think happened is the next track, which is actually supposed to be Apparator Part 1 or whatever you're supposed to call him, shows up twice, right next to the Smasher, and in my own release, whoops. Because I kind of put them in order of appearance. The Yacht Club ones are kind of like that, but not really. But you know, these are supposed to be like right one after another. So I'm guessing what happened here was, Apparator V1 Part 1 whatever is in here twice, when really one of those duplicates shouldn't have been a duplicate. It should have been Geothermal Towers V2 or Part 2 or whatever. But that's just not there. So that's kind of a problem. We've got missing tracks already, and oh, look at these hilarious mistakes I found over here. We got tags that aren't even, or sorry, tracks that are not even tagged properly, because that shouldn't say that like that. You don't put the file name next to the tag. That's not how that works. Or you don't put the file extension next to the tag. The file extension is supposed to go in the file name, and it's even wrong in the file name, I just noticed. So again, we're already noticing hilarious mistakes, and we haven't even gotten that far. Now I know some of these kinds of things can be fixed on Bandcamp at the very least, because you can. I've seen it once where people have been able to upload extra tracks to their release that already existed, so you should be able to have a way to get around that, but I don't know about those physical releases if they've already started doing those. I'm glad I'm not buying that or something. But hey, let's keep going while we're ranting, why don't we? What else was wrong? Oh yeah, Apparator shows up twice, and there's a thing with the bell going on with the game version, and they couldn't fix that, I guess, or something. So what I mean by that is, I'll show you my own version first. Uneven loops aside, because I wasn't perfect at putting these together when I was losing my fucking existence. There's a bell there that doesn't really make sense going from the intro to the main loop. It only makes sense when you're looping the loop back into itself, and I'll try and show you that both ways. So I'll play this again. You can kind of hear that just kind of shows up. It doesn't really come from anywhere, right? But let's go to the rest of the track and try and make it make more sense, you know. You can see that bell kind of makes more sense when like we're looping back into it, right? So that's a byproduct of them using a loop that only works well when going back into itself. Ideally, when you make these sort of style of songs where you have one intro that then goes into a loop that then loops into itself, you try and design your loops such that they go smoothly back to themselves and from the intro to themselves. This one is an outlier because it doesn't go from the intro to itself all that nicely. I thought maybe with the soundtrack release they would have a way to fix that, or include a slightly different loop that doesn't have that there, or some kind of thing, so it's not like that ugly sore thing. Because like I would understand it in game where like, yeah, they didn't really care or whatever, you're not gonna notice, but like, guys, it's a soundtrack release, what the hell? Unless Enrique's files and source files and sessions and things were like this all along, this feels very game version-y right now, and that's something you can do and put together for free and whatnot, and I don't feel like that's worth your money. I'm not going to tell you not to buy it because you decide what the hell you want to do with your money at the end of the day. But and again, I bought it, so like, but that's only to support Enrique. But I don't think that they've packed up a very good job in here. But let's keep going anyway. Oh yeah, elevator rising is weird, and it's also mixed differently, and we're gonna talk about that. I will show you my own version of what we mean there, if I can find it in my ridiculously huge description. I've done this a little bit differently because I mixed them together. I've mixed disposal facility and elevator rising together because I thought they're part of the same theme, but I also thought about doing them differently. Enrique did them differently. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that side of it. So here we're going from, the way I did it is we're going from the main loop to the rising bit and then back around, so. So here we're transitioning from the main loop to the rising thing, right? And you can kind of tell we're in the rising thing because it's a little bit quieter because in-game it made sense because you're on an elevator, so you end up hearing that kind of... They have a sound effect for the elevator, so it makes sense the music would be a bit more quieter because it's a bit more tense and it's like a flying... you've got that section with all the flies and stuff and whatever, right? Right, and we looped back around. By the way, just so we get this out of the way, if you want to do this comparison yourself, just go find my video and compare it with the Bandcamp page. I'm just putting this here in the same video just so I have a way of backing up my evidence with my own words and findings and stuff, right? And also, if there's compression or anything weird going on because YouTube is fun, go do it yourself that way, and it'll make more sense, right? Hopefully, I'm not like breathing into the mic like a weird asshole or something. So, if that's like that, just again, you can kind of go get a good look at this yourself, right? So their version for this elevator bit is a little weird because it's a shorter version and it's also mixed a bit differently. I'll try and find it for you. I have a theory behind that, but again, I don't entirely know why they did it this way. and then we're just kind of looping, right? So it just keeps doing this for a while. And that's about it. So they're basically now. I know there is a version like this in the game, but it's not the version that you actually hear in the game when you get in there. I think it is, but only when if you keep like it keeps looping that way. But what I'm basically trying to say is I found like the most complete version of that is in the game when I did mine, and I've just kind of chosen to use that and loop it and do it that way. There were other versions, some of which sounded a bit like prototypes that were kind of quiet and stuff and all this kind of thing. I think Enrique somehow wound up using a chunk of those that are not, again, entirely what you hear in game. So that one's a little weird, and it's incomplete and kind of fun. So let's keep going. What else do we have? Oh yeah, spine shit. So, aka Reactor V2. I started calling these by my own game reps and things, and then we have a problem with a weird base and stuff. Yes. Again, more game version style problems, and I'll get into why that's a problem at the end. If that's unless you want to jump to the end, up to you. So I will try and find that in my own track or in my own game rep, if I could even speak. Where is this? Here we are. Right, so you see how that intro bit is kind of, it's got these various chords and stuff and doing things with them. The problem that I have with this one is that they've put a sound effect over it that isn't normally there, and it causes a lot of these uncomfortably harmonies that don't go well together, basically, because you have a sound effect that kind of acts like its own chord that gets in the way of the chords of the song that are already there, and you're going to have problems if you do it that way. Again, I'm noticing more tagging mistakes, like why does this have a number to it, yet they're not really supposed to have that, so more problems, and there's more of that, and you kind of get the idea. This thing looks like it's kind of been hastily put together, but let's get in here anyway. You can kind of hear like those chords in the background don't go well with the other thing, right? Like, let me try and play it again. It's like that sound effect almost kind of undermines the chords that are in the background, and I don't think that's like really supposed to be that way, because there was nothing wrong with that in the actual game. So why are we doing this now, where we're overlaying something that undermines something else? That's not. You're adding a problem to something that didn't have a problem. Why are we adding problems to things that were fine? Kind of destroying the song, because it also that sound effect also has a hum that isn't quite the same note as the song that as the key that the song is in, and you almost kind of create this sort of thing where, like, when like a million people go singing together and they try and sing the same thing, but everyone is slightly lower or higher, and it makes this obnoxious fucking way of doing things. That's essentially just about what's going on here with all these layers. And again, why are we doing that when there was no need for that? Because again, you've got those chords being where they're supposed to be, but then this hum thing is slightly above it, and we kind of have problems. So that's a problem already, but then it gets worse. I'm trying to find something. Here we go. That bass is insane. Why is it doing that like that? I know it was like that in the game too, but it feels even worse in the soundtrack release. That is like peaking, bleeding beyond belief, right? I'm gonna try and find that back here too. Here we go. It's still kind of bad, but like it feels worse in the soundtrack thing. It might just be me doing a placebo thing, but I mean. Also, keep in mind I have the FLAC version of the soundtrack versus the in-game stuff were really just 128 kilobits a second OGG files that I've then converted to MP3s because soundtrack releases, right? So that could just be even more amplified in the soundtrack simply because it's lost less and it's even worse than, you know, you get to that point where problems get even worse as you kind of have higher quality versions if you've got problems and things, right? Okay, so what else do we have? Oh, I've opened up a million things over here, haven't I? Alright, let's try and keep it sensical. Did I skip something? Oh yeah, I skipped, wait, let me make sure. Okay, so we did that, this. Okay, I skipped one of these, my bad. We can go back there, that's fine. It's just that the ethos has a weirdly strange cut again that isn't normally supposed to be there. So let's try and find that. Where is it? Should be somewhere back here, right? Yeah. And again, it's fine at the looping point thing. I'll try and find that for you. Right, so all the sounds can kind of reverb and do what they're supposed to do and all that, but then you go to the end. You can tell they kind of cut in there trying to fade it really weirdly, and again, we're going back to that title screen thing where, like, why did you do this like this? Because it sounds off, so it's like, again, we've got that fun problem. There is another track that is in my game rip that isn't even included in this release again, so we're missing more tracks. Something I called Beat the Monkey, which is featured when you go and get the wall jump ability, and I think it also shows up in a few other places. That's not in here. I'll try and find that for you so you can have an idea of what that's supposed to sound like. Right, and then we're just kind of looping and fading and stuff, right? So. Right, so don't know why that's not in there, but again, we've got missing tracks, so that's a fun problem. So this thing isn't entirely as complete as it should be, but moving on. What else do we have here? Talked about all of that. Oh yeah, research lab is still weird. Yep. So it basically loops very weirdly, and I thought that might have just been a game version thing, but it's much the same in the soundtrack, so let me try and showcase that faster than I can say fuck. Oh boy. Where is this? Oh yeah. Okay. Here we go. And I'm just gonna jump to the end a bit, right? The reason I say it cuts kind of weirdly is because you've got all those instruments still kind of hanging back there, and then when it goes to loop back into itself, they're gone. So the way in which it loops back into itself isn't all that smooth as compared to the other tracks. And they left it much the same in the soundtrack, because of course they did. Again, ideally, you would go back to your source files and try and put together a loop or some kind of crossfade or something so that it kind of sounds more normal. But hey, what do I know about doing this kind of stuff? I've never released a soundtrack before, right? Where the hell is this thing? There you are, Jesus. So it's the same kind of problem that they didn't really. That it still kind of feels weird going back into itself, right? So it's like, we had all these instruments and then they're just gone. Okay. Again, that should be like a game version thing, not a official soundtrack thing. Like, it's one thing for that to be in my game rip because I only have the game files to work with. When you put together a soundtrack release, you usually expect somebody to go back through their source stuff and make it a little nicer, unless all they had was the game versions and they never really thought about fixing any of that. But that's kind of a problem then, because you just did your own game rip that's a little better than mine, and then you want money for it, and it's actually worse than mine. So, they called it acid trip. I called it something else. They have an ugly thing at the start. Yes. Yep. Let's go. Witness that problem. Also, YouTube is apparently trying to do fun stuff for me. Not right now. Where is that thing? At least we're getting close to the end of what I'm trying to showcase here, but you kind of see the point that this thing is bug-filled, right? Compared to my own thing. And if my own thing didn't exist, I wouldn't have anything to judge them for, but when I took a week to put mine together, under the state and the condition that I was in when I was putting it together, and I did it for free and all this kind of stuff, and I did it as good as I did, you would then expect their own soundtrack to at least match mine or exceed mine, and it doesn't, and they want your money, so that's kind of weird. So you can kind of hear it back there, it's a bit of a clip thing going on. I'll try and play it a few more times for you so you can distinguish. It's like a... That's not really supposed to be there. I tried getting around it in my own way because it was even worse in the game version. I think I could just kind of cut into it a little bit so it's not that much in your face, and Enrique apparently attempted to do the same, which clearly leads me to believe that his source files are practically identical to the stuff that's in the game, which is kind of a problem. Because when you're making a soundtrack, you're supposed to put a bit more thought into it. Mostly. Where is this thing? What did I even call these things? Oh yes, we are much further into the thing. I called it something else. I called it our outskirts fauna because it's like an area with a lot of bats and stuff and things and whatever, right? You can kind of see I don't really have that, right? It's still kind of there, but nowhere near as bad as theirs. So, like, again, if I took the time to take the game versions of these tracks and fix up obviously screwed up things about them, and I've done that for free, and they want your money, and they haven't even bothered to do that, well, we kind of have some shady problems over here. Moving on. Right, where are we? That, oh, the dancing thing. Yeah, it's weird that they thought to include, okay, so, I'll show what I mean by that. If I can find it again. So there is a secret area in the Outskirts chapter that leads you to, like, a dancing, series of animals or stuff or whatever, something like that, right? I called it like Outskirts Secret or something, right? It's got an intro that isn't used in the game, and they also thought to bring that in here, so that's kind of funny. Like, normally the game just goes, like, that's kind of where the game starts, right? When it goes, you have all the instruments over there. When I did my game rip, I found the intro for it, which is unused in-game because they probably forgot to put it there or something, and I thought I would include that. It's funny how they chose to also include that in their thing, because you don't actually hear that in the game. Again, my loops are nowhere near as good, but you get the point. I just kind of thought that was a funny one, because that track is essentially, like, half of it is unused, or a portion of it, or whatever, but it's still there. Right, on to more serious things. Oh yeah, the bike. The bike still has a weird clippy thing, doesn't it? Yep. Which is why mine is a little different. Yep. Okay. Let's go and find their version of that, I guess. Where is that? Oh, here we are. Again, you can kind of... It's very hard to spot, but it's at the start. There's like a... There's like a click thing, whatever, that shouldn't be there. Right? The way I got around that, it was even worse in the game version, and I think Enrique, again, kind of tried to get around it and failed, somehow. The way I got around it was to just simply fade into the thing, because it kind of fades in anyway, to a certain extent. Where is this? What did I called mine a little bit differently, but... So yeah, I just kind of got around that by fading it, because there's not much else you can do to fix stuff like that, unfortunately, and it's like they didn't even try simple tricks like that, which is a little puzzling, to say the very least. Like, okay, ideally, you should have better source files to begin with. If you can't fix those, or if you've only got so much to work with, at least try and find, basic tricks and stuff to get around, like... And again, it goes without saying, like, I've done this for like a year. Don't tell me they didn't know my game rip was a thing. It's almost like all they had to do is kind of follow what I was doing and call it theirs. They've somehow failed to even do that, and they want your money. Okay, where are we going here? Oh yeah, Combinatron. Yep. Right. But then they put other sound effects. Yeah, basically what I'm trying to say with that one is, with the Combinatron, there is a story cutscene for him where he kind of just murders somebody, and you find about that by talking to one of those NPCs earlier in the game. And I thought I would include that in there, because the way in which he shows up is kind of scary, right? You just kind of walk down this corridor in the Mecha Island spaceport or whatever, and a laser pops up next to you, and then you go back, and then he kind of just shows up out of nowhere. So I thought it would be great to kind of have his little story scene as a way to show that kind of thing, right? Or as a way for you to hear that kind of thing happening, maybe. Right, and then we go into the regular track, which is what is present in the Yacht Club release. The reason I say it's funny that they chose not to include something like that is because, yes, it's probably more of a sound effect kind of thing, so they chose to not do that. But then they chose to include sound effects in other places, like in that reactor theme, or like that spine chamber thing, or whatever it was, right? So if I was to try and find this one, see, we just kind of go straight into it. So I thought that was interesting that they didn't think to put that there, but then they put sound effects over other tracks. It's a little weird and kind of inconsistent beyond belief. So again, we move on. Where are we? Oh yeah, release. So I called it freeing the master. You know, when you it's the end of the game and you go to free the master and stuff and get on with your job and things, right? I'll go and play my version first for a change if I can find where the hell here. You can kind of see mine starts up normally, right? Well, ignoring this bit because it's from the other track. Right, there's nothing to it. We just kind of fire up normally, and that's about it. In the game version, it had a horrible clip thing that I had to cut and fade around and stuff and whatever to make sure that that's not there. And, of course, as luck would have it in the official release, it's still clipping rather nicely. So I'll try and find that for you. Where are we? This. Or is it? Oh, no, it's not. What are we doing? Where are we going? I think I'm past it or something. No, here we are. Oh, or is it this? No, that's a different thing. Okay. Yeah, see? It's got a boop to it. That shouldn't be there. Again, it's even worse in the game version. Again, they tried cleaning it up a little bit, but it's still kind of bad. And then there was also... Where is the ending track? Whatever, maybe I got something wrong. Yeah, where is the actual ending track? Hold on. Oh, wait, did they put the... Oh, I think I know what they did. Okay. Right. Yeah, for some reason they've combined two tracks into one, and I don't entirely know why. Because it doesn't really... They're not really supposed to go together. So I've also said in my own thing over here that... where is it? The ending track is still called Release. That's because they're part of the same thing. I didn't notice. I thought they're still separate. But yeah, it still has sound effects on top, just like the previous track did, which again, you would think for a soundtrack release you'd be able to fix that kind of stuff, because that's not supposed to be there. And there's a bit there that's kind of broken too. But I can't really... whoops. I'm getting rid of all the things, aren't I? I'll try and show you that in my own little thing. But they still have that kind of problem where the ending bit is a little scratched up. Normally in game it cuts off earlier to that point, but then they're highlighting their own mistakes by letting it run as long as it does. Which I only chose to do that just for the hell of it, but... where are we? you might not be able to hear all that well, but it's a little bit broken at the end. It's like there's notes that are going off that shouldn't really be there and stuff. It's fading out, so it's hard to tell. But if you go and play this in my own video separately and you make it loud, you should be able to tell. That's what I mean by they have sound effects on top. There's that wind and all that kind of stuff back there. You'd think they'd be able to take that out, but apparently not, so okay. Anyway. Oh, I've closed all my things. Okay, let's just open everything all over again. We got this, and we're supposed to be in here. Okay. Where are we? Oh yeah, the credits theme is weird. They took the time to completely production change the hell out of this one, and for all the wrong ways, because it's loud and bassy as hell and stuff, and it's got extra vocals and things because I guess the people at Yacht Club wanted Enrique to do that on account that they helped with the game or something. I don't know. You be the judge of that. I'm gonna play you the game version entirely, and then we're also going to go to the final thing, or to the soundtrack version entirely, and you tell me which one you like better. But yeah. And that's about that, right? And let's just kind of close out of that and go to the because I think we're sort of done there mostly, but let's go to let's go to their own version, which I just came out of because I'm an idiot. And you'll see it is radically different for no reason. And I find it kind of strange that they chose to remix and kind of reproduce that track and stuff, where the mixing and production bits are so different. Why didn't you guys do that for the entire soundtrack, eh? Why isn't the whole soundtrack like this, where it's essentially like a better produced version of the entire thing, eh? Yeah, kind of makes you wonder. It's almost like they didn't give Enrique enough time. Because then what are you telling me is like either his source files are really bad, but then for this one track he chose to like fix things and stuff and make instruments more dynamic and stand out and stuff. Because that's my other big problem with this. But let's see here. I think I'm sort of done. But like, oh yeah, the transport thing. So there's a track in here called the transport mode, which is I guess intended for the map screen. But the version that they chose to include is not the one that's actually heard in game. So what they chose to include is this. You get the idea. That's not what's actually in the game. What is actually in the game is what I'll show you from my own RIP. If I can find wherever I've stashed my own downloadable version of my own thing, which is free and all that kind of fun stuff. Again, I'm not saying you shouldn't buy the official thing. I'm just saying it's flawed. Maybe they can fix some of it, or all of it, or none of it. I don't know. It would be nice to hear from somebody at Yacht Club or from Penta himself. because we've got problems right now. Anyway, what I was trying to show you is that what you were supposed to hear is this. That's the thing that's actually on the map screen. Of course, I also chose to include the unused version of it that is in the game that I called something completely different at the time because I didn't know what it's actually supposed to be. So they accidentally ended up including an unused track instead of a track that you actually hear in the game. Worse yet, they've only included part of it because it actually extends a little bit. And then we kind of loop, and that's that. So again, the version they have there, even though it's an unused track and that's not what's supposed to be there, is also different. So not only do we not have the version we heard in game, it's a version of a different unused track, and it's not even that unused track in its entirety, because I'm guessing Enrique somehow wound up with different files or something that he put in there as well. So again, this thing kind of feels haphazardly put together. There are no bonus trailer tracks, even though Enrique said he might include some of that. I know might doesn't mean will, but I mean, you know. And we talked about the beat the monkey thing. I'm just going to go over my big problem with this, as I've said over here. My big problem with this entire thing is that it all kind of feels, if you haven't noticed by now, it all kind of feels like the entire thing is like Enrique just did his own game rip that has tighter loops compared to what I do to my own version. Which again, that's fine. They're entitled to do that. They have the rights to do that and charge money for it. I'm not saying I haven't come across other soundtracks that are like this, but at least those are content complete and they don't have as many silly mistakes as this one, to the point where they want your money for a release of theirs that is worse than the thing that I did a year ago for free out of my own passion and love and thing for this thing, right? So we've kind of got problems. is what I'm trying to say, right? Right? It's kind of, I don't mean to bash anybody, but maybe they can fix some of this stuff, because in the here and now, shit's fucked.